Okay, my friends, let us begin with our project. Here, we're already in Blender version 3.3. You should always work on the latest version, but don't worry if you have a more recent or slightly older version, because there's not much difference. There are usually small improvements, but the general workflow is still the same, so don't worry too much about it. Okay, then, our first step will be blocking. So we will go over the reference folder, which is included in the course's downloadable content. And here are two folders. One is for the reference, and the other has the concept art for the main character. We will use the character for the blocking and also make use of some anatomy reference. So I'll open the PureRef software, which I already talked about in previous courses. It's free. I absolutely recommend it. And it's very useful for managing our reference. So I will drag my referent over here. I can set the scale from here. And we will also use some anatomy reference. I have some over here. For example, I think this one is a good referent for blocking for what we need right now. It has more or less the amount of pieces we need with very basic geometries. And I also like these reference. These are much more detailed, but also quite good. These are reference for stylized characters. And they include all the views, so they're excellent for our purpose. I will also drag them all over here to my PureRef file. Okay, then, let's begin. Let's head back to Blender. I will move this to the left. And okay, I will hide this gizmo. Also, collapse the animation panel. We won't be using any of that, and I want a cleaner workspace. I will also enable an add-on over here. So you can see down here the keys I'm pressing. I will say most of the keys out loud, but as this is an intermediate level course, there are a lot of stuff that you should already be familiar with. In any case, all the keys will show up here. Okay, so I will begin by removing everything from the scene. I just moved the 3D cursor, so I will press Shift S to place it back in the center of the world, and we will start blocking the head. We will start from top to bottom, head, neck, shoulders, torso, and so on. So I will leave this over here. Then come here and start with a UV sphere to make the face. So I will go into sculpt mode. Set mirror in the x-axis and then give it the shape of a head. For the back part, I will add another UV sphere and move it in the y-axis. I must also turn on the mirror for this one, and the idea is to merge these to kinda resemble the skull shape. This is just my way of doing it. And then I will collapse both objects to merge them. Okay, there's another thing I'd like to modify. The lock object mode option. When I disable it, you can see here how I'm changing between objects without exiting sculpt mode. Okay, that's it. Let's leave it like this. Let's add some volume over here. Now give some subtle hints on the nose. The eye holes. I recommend to always work with a low resolution at first. Because right now, the important thing is the shape. When we are blocking, the shape is what matters the most. I'm trying to make a good profile for the face, even if I have just a few polygons. Okay, now we will give it some shape. Okay, let's now add the neck. I will simply grab this sphere, duplicate it and move it in the z-axis, and keep making adjustments. Okay. I will duplicate this again and start using this one for the thorax. We will make this bigger, more elongated, and expand it to the sides. And it's also time to start reviewing the other reference. So when we're working on the thorax in the blocking process, this is a good referent for the shape we want to achieve. We're now dividing the whole rib cage to then connect it with the abdomen and have them in separate pieces. Let's duplicate this once again. Move it in the z-axis. I will smooth this out a bit. We will do this for the abdomen. Retouch this shape. Also, the shape of the rib cage. And now we will add the shoulders. Okay, I will retouch the neck first, make it thinner. The abdomen too. That's it. Okay, now for the shoulders. As before, we will create a UV sphere. Then add a mirror modifier. I will place it over here and place the mirror object on the head. So I will move these pieces over here. And each time I need a mirrored piece, I will simply duplicate this one. Let's do that and start making the shape of the shoulders. I will push this upwards even further so it doesn't get in the way while I work. And we can also start reviewing this other referent. This is the one I like the best. The anatomy is quite on point. I will start polishing this part, the trapezoids area. It has a subtle drop. Let's make the neck even a bit thinner. And we should also pull the shoulders a bit to the bottom. In general, I will start by making all the main parts for the blocking, and then adjust them to our character's proportions. I will scale this a bit. This part is nicely rounded. Okay, let's check the lateral view. I always suggest that, no matter what you're doing, always use reference, especially for anatomy. We would need an incredible amount of experience in order to do this without reference. So, I believe most artists will keep using reference even after many years of experience. Clearly, you will get to a point when the reference are not that important. But for these first stages, they're fundamental. Let's remove this little hump. Push the abdomen forwards a bit. The spine will always have a shape like this. My drawing is kinda ugly, but what I mean is that it will always have a slight curve. Okay, let's keep polishing. Don't worry if it looks somehow skewed or ugly. It's just a matter of time, especially in the blocking process. There will always be times when it will look very weird and unrealistic. Okay, let's go back to the frontal view. And let's add the arms. We can scale the head a bit, scale it a bit, and pull it downwards in the Z-axis. It was way too big. Okay, let's add the arms. I will duplicate this sphere, and in edit mode, scale it in the Z-axis to give it this shape. So I will duplicate this, rotate it, trying to place it in the correct spot. I will smoothen this out a bit. And then adjust the shoulders so they're correctly placed with respect to the arm and the thorax. I will make this part of the thorax a little concave. Okay, let's see another referent. We will review this one. It's a good starting referent. For example, we can make this a bit thinner. We can scale the arms. The shoulders are quite pronounced too. I will slightly shrink them. I will shrink this part of the thorax too at the height of the breasts. There should be a subtle concavity at the armpits location. I will move the head a bit forwards and scale it a bit. Same for the neck, a bit forwards. I will also rotate the arms a bit, move them to the back. That's it. Make some more adjustments to the thorax. Okay, I will now duplicate this object once again and move the forearm over here. And let's check the arm of the referent. Look what's happening. This part, the upper part of the arm, is usually wider at the front. I will expand it forwards a little. A bit to the back too. And the forearm, on the contrary, is a bit wider at the top. Then it curves due to a bone called the ulna. But at the front, we must shape it more or less like this. I will smoothen it out a bit. Okay, this is still a bit exaggerated. Let's adjust it. I will make this one shorter. I will save the file as I haven't saved it yet. And let's continue over here. Okay, I will now duplicate the head and move it down here to make the hips. We will make the hips and pubis from this part. I will shrink the abdomen's volume a bit because the character is a bit slimmer. Okay? I will grab this sphere again and duplicate it to make this girl's buttocks. So I will rotate this here, scale it a bit in the y-axis, and correctly place it here in the back. Let's open our lateral view. Maybe the back view works better. There are two references here. The one in the middle shows the muscles by themselves. And this one also includes a bit of influence from the fat. I think this one is better suited for this case. So the buttocks go like this. They're slightly elongated towards the bottom. I don't like how this looks, so I will perform a remesh. Hit Ctrl R to make a remesh. This is the current resolution, the default. I will leave it like this. Smooth it out a bit and keep making adjustments. I will expand the volume over here a bit more. And as we've been scaling, I will select the whole model, press Ctrl A, and apply the scale. This way, it will look more balanced when we apply the remesh. I think it's time to start remeshing a few of these pieces. Select the abdomen, go into sculpt mode and press Ctrl R. It will then perform the remesh with the same density as the buttocks. So I will begin increasing the volume over here. The back always have a subtle concavity at the middle where the spine is located. Let's expand this a bit to the sides to add the fat. And we will also shrink the top part of the buttocks. We should lift them a bit more. Let's look at the lateral view. We will give the chest more volume towards the front. Same for the abdomen. Hips and pubis. We will shrink this a bit at the top. And the buttocks should also extend a bit to the sides. They go more or less like this. Okay, I will duplicate this piece. Let's add the legs. I will scale it, slightly rotate it, and now we will use the inflate brush. Go to sculpt mode and look for the inflate brush to give the upper part of the legs a bit more volume, because the upper part of the legs is always slightly thicker. Let's adjust this position. Okay. And now keep polishing the shape. We will change our reference position as many times as we need to. So in frontal view, we will adjust the leg's shape. I will smoothen the area where I want to decrease the volume. I will now push this part noticeably. I will add more volume to the beginning of the legs, then move them a bit to the back. Now increase the buttocks volume a bit more. I want to take the abdomen just a tad to the front, and same goes for the hips. Let's speed this part a bit while we finish adjusting the groin and hips. We will simply go with the grab brush, giving it some more volume and polishing the general shape. For example, I think we should give more volume to the buttocks. They were too flat. Okay. And we will also go for longer legs. Okay, let's go back to normal speed and continue with the legs. We will duplicate this object to make the tibia and calves. We will also give some more volume to the upper part using the inflate brush. I will scale them a bit in the z-axis, move them to the back. And these parts always have some curvature, this way. If we check the reference lateral view, you can notice this subtle curvature. So, I will move this to align it, give some more volume to the top part, and adjust this curve I was talking about. That's it. Now I will rotate the whole character a bit from the lateral view. Aha, I will move this upwards a bit. Now, select everything, press Ctrl A and apply all transforms. Applying all transforms is a good practice, because this way we will have better control over the scale, and that the modifiers are applied on a regular basis. So, okay, let's give the thorax some more detail. I will press Ctrl R in sculpt mode, smooth it out a bit. Now polish this shape. We will shrink the volume on this part. I will also push the neck a little to the front. I will press Ctrl R to perform a remesh. Adjust this shape on the back. And remember that here in the middle we have a subtle caving for the spine. And on this back part we should be able to see the scapulae. Let's check the back view and then make the scapulae, which has a kind of triangular shape. Carve it a bit and smoothen everything out. Okay, I will pull the whole thorax towards the bottom and carve in the middle a bit again. We're currently focused mainly on the character's shape. We will add some more volume to the back. And now I will work a bit on the shoulders. I will also perform a remesh and polish all the entire shape. I will add some volume at the height of the breasts. I think we can do that later. For now, let's keep polishing the shape. I will pull the thorax a bit more to the bottom. Okay, it's looking quite nice. Let's check the frontal view of the referent again. We must add a slight sinking over here at the height of the breasts, where they meet with the armpits. Okay, even though this character is wearing an armor and we won't see much of her breasts, they will be kind of hidden. We will make them anyway, as a study matter. So you know how to correctly situate them in the correct position. So I will place them over here, these two spheres. They go more or less like this, and we must extend them up to almost where the shoulders begin. Maybe not that much. I will check the referent again. And we will keep polishing this shape. This character is a kinda thin girl, so the breasts are not really that pronounced. Okay, something like this is fine. I will keep adjusting the chest anyway, and we can further polish them later on. And lastly, for this blocking part, we will grab the head and collapse it. You can see that the head is working as the axis for the mirrored objects. So in order to maintain that mirror, as this is the piece serving as the axis, we will first select the object in the back and then the one at the front, so we don't lose that mirroring axis. I will now press Ctrl J, go into sculpt mode, then press Ctrl R to perform the remesh. You can see that the head now has two colors. This is because we joined two separate objects, and now they are in different face sets. So here I will select face sets from visible to join the whole object into a single face set. And polish the shape a bit. Then smoothen it all out. The skull should be completely continuous. It shouldn't have any sinking at all. We will draft some head elements without going into much detail. We will simply hint at some of the main elements. Okay, and we can also use the scrape brush. This one over here. To flatten some parts that are way too rounded. Same for the forehead. I will flatten it a bit. Okay friends, there's one more thing I'd like to do. I want to clean my interface a bit, so I will hide the floor and disable the axis. Same here. I will hide the grid, so everything looks cleaner, allowing us to work more comfortably. Okay, so we will leave it like this in this first video. I will save everything. We just started blocking our whole character. We need all the main shapes, the main volumes with very basic geometries, and in low resolution to make sure the shape is progressing nicely. So we began this way, making a general shape. And in the next video, we will add the missing body parts. And we will also work a bit on the proportions, so they nicely adjust to our character.